To order the May 18th Salina City Commission meeting. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Larson.
Here.
Commissioner Angel.
Here.
Commissioner Arpke.
Here.
Commissioner Jennings.
Here.
Commissioner Peck.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, we have our Citizens Forum. This is where anyone from the audience can come and speak on anything that is not on today's agenda. Please come forward to the mic, give us your name and address.
My name is Kiva Haynes. I live at 622 Duval Avenue. I was here last week supporting Visit Salina. I am a frontline person in the travel industry. I work at the Best Western Mid-America Inn on North Knott Street. I've been there for over a year now. And the reason that I'm here today, I know that the law has already been passed about non-smoking in Salina in public facilities. However, as a non-smoker, me going to work and having to walk through secondhand smoke to get to my place of employment is hindering my health. Now, I understand that because Salina is wanting to better the quality of everybody's health in the town. I get that. However, since Best Western is an outside entrance hotel, I seriously feel that we should be exempt, or at least be able to have a percentage of rooms be allotted for smokers that are traveling. Since they are traveling away from home, when they come to us and they give us their money for a room, it doesn't matter if they're staying for one day or if they're staying for 3 months. That room is their residence for the night. Now, like Super 8 and Holiday Inn Express, those are inside entrance rooms. So I get the whole concept of making it non-smoking, because you've got the gaps in between the doors. The smoke can filter out into the hallway. However, we've got a lot of hotels here in town that are outside entrances, and due to this, I have seen so many people who are smokers, no matter how tired they are, turn around and walk out of my hotel due to that. Now, there are instances where they're too tired, or I can actually talk them into staying, and I have to put them in a certain area so that whenever they are outside, if it's in the middle of the day and it's hot, they can be sheltered by the tree that's in our outside area by our pool. I do agree with the law just because I am a non-smoker. Just like if it's my choice to go to a friend's house that does smoke, I'm putting my own health at risk. However, if my friends choose to come to my house, they also know that they are not allowed to smoke in my home. And with travelers, especially whenever we get broken down truckers who are constantly on the road, they have no choice but to stop to have their vehicles worked on. They come to the hotel. They don't want to have to go outside to smoke. Not only that, but we have handicapped people that come and stay at our hotel who are in walkers or wheelchairs. And for them to have to leave their room to go in outside with their disability as is, it does add to complications for them. Now, it's not like Best Western says, okay, well, we can only sell so many rooms for smokers. We had, for as long as I know of, in Best Western on North Ninth Street, I know has been there for over 30 years. And it's not like we have one smoking room that we rent out, and then the next following day we rent it to a non-smoker. We also have pet rooms where we allow pets to stay. But due to knowing that there are people that have major allergies due to pets, we don't put those people in rooms where pets have belonged. Now, as a non-smoker, I I know that the law has already been passed, and I know that there's probably nothing that I can do or say to change anything. But as a non-smoker, having to walk through secondhand smoke to get to my place of employment, it really hurts a lot because I can't handle the smell. I don't like the smell on me. It's not fair to my daughter whenever I have to go pick her up from the babysitters and she's having to smell that smoke on me as well. I'm just asking, with knowing however many hotels that we have without inside entrances, I agree. Go ahead, keep those non-smoking. But with the hotels that have outside entrances, I do ask that y'all think about it, or whatever y'all do, and just let us have like a percentage of rooms that we can sell. Because whenever I have a smoker leave my hotel, not only are they taking money out of Salina, but they're taking money away from my daughter too. And that hurts as a single parent. And this is where I live. This is my home. And if it's taken away from Salina, then it's taken away from our community as well.
If I could just clarify something, you say you have to walk through it on your way to your place of employment. I understand that most of the major entrances, 10 feet from the major entrance has to be designated as off limits or non-smoking. So these people are further away than 10 feet and you're having to walk through that to get
Where
to the
I
door?
have to park, my vehicle is parked more than 10 feet away from the hotel entrance. So even if they're 10 feet away from the bar, the pool, the hotel where all the rooms are, I still have to walk through that secondhand smoke to get to the office or get back to my vehicle.
If your hotel had smoking rooms, you don't think they'd still be there?
They would be outside on nice nights, granted, but they also have the option of staying in their room. And 9 times out of 10, all I hear from them is, I just want to relax after a meal. I just want to smoke a cigarette while I'm watching the TV. Or it's too hot, I just want to stay in a cool room. Or it's too cold, or it's raining. I mean, all of these, I feel that, granted, cigarettes are not a healthy habit. Just like drinking is not a healthy habit. However, because we can't take cigarettes away from everybody, I mean, if we could just work with the people that do smoke. I mean, if a smoker comes to my hotel and says, well, do you have any smoking rooms, and I can put them in a smoking room, that would save me from having them leave or go to Abilene, or having to drive in an opposite direction just to find somewhere else. And after being on the road for 10, 12, 14 hours, I mean,
Right.
Traveling does wear on you as is.
Okay, I understand. Okay, thank you. Thank you for
you.
your comment.
Can I ask her something?
Sure.
Ms. Haynes? Can I ask you a question? Do you know how many guests have not stayed at the hotel specifically because of the non-smoking ordinance?
Since it's been in place, on my shift alone, I've had at least 25 people either cancel their reservations, walk out, or they'll call and ask for a smoking room, and I have to tell them that Salina they've passed a law that there is no smoking in any public place, and I get a lot of hang-ups with that and walkouts and cancellations. The person that works second shift all week long would be able to answer that a lot better than I would, but from my own experience, I've had at least 50 people so far since this has been passed.
Are you a shift manager then at the hotel?
No.
Or what's your position?
I work first and second shift both, but I'm just a guest service representative.
Thank you.
So then out of 25 people a week, about how many then do stay? Roughly, on that shift?
Out of 25 people that do stay, if all of them are non-smokers, they all stay.
Well,
Now,
I mean-
if we've
I
got
mean-
smokers mixed in with that 25 people, I would say 20 of them, and that would be the non-smokers.
Okay, I mean, if you've lost 25 people staying but how many on average do you normally have on that one shift? 100 a week or 500 a week?
If I lost 25 in 1 week, I would say that we would have roughly 85 people.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks again, thank you. Any other comments?
Marvin, I live here in Salina. Excuse me. How you doing, Commissioners? What I want to say is this.
Give us your name and address, please. Did you mention your name and address?
Yeah,
Okay. I didn't hear your address.
Mayor Larson, I didn't.
I just said Salina.
Okay, she needs your full name and address, please.
I did not understand.
Marvin, West Houston,
Address.
718 North 7th,
Thank you.
Salina.
Thank you.
You got it? Okay, I'm just talking here about the smoking thing, okay? We need to do something with this, get it over with. The fraternal clubs, everything like that. We're, you know, I've been commander at the American Legion. I was an officer for 10 years down there. We never had no problem. And if any of you commissioners want to come down there and see our system to eliminate smoke, you're welcome to come down and see it, okay? Just give me a call and I'll get you in there if you're not members. And I think it hurts Bingo. It hurts, well, it hurts the lounge, you know? And I've been to, well, I only go to one other bar in town, just to visit and have a couple beers and then leave. That's hurting them too. So I think we need to come to a head on this thing and get it over with, one way or another. I mean, we're all getting tired of fighting it, you know what I mean?
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other comments? If not, we'll move on with awards and proclamations.
Item 4.1, the day of May 23rd, 2009, as Poppy Day in the city of Salina. Sue Herman, American Legion Auxiliary President, will read the proclamation.
Good afternoon. Our Poppy Day Proclamation. Whereas America is the land of freedom, preserved and protected willingly and freely by citizen soldiers. Whereas those who have answered the call to arms have died on the field of battle. Whereas a nation at peace must be reminded of the price of war and the debt owed to those who have died in war. Whereas the red poppy has been designated as a symbol of sacrifice of lives in all wars. And whereas the American Legion Auxiliary has pledged to remind America annually of this debt through the distribution of the memorial flower. The proclamation goes on to say, therefore I am Lucy Larson, Mayor of the City of Salina, do hereby proclaim May 23rd, 2009 as Poppy Day, and ask that all citizens pay tribute to those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the name of freedom by wearing the memorial poppy on this day.
Are there any events or functions that you have planned for that day to distribute the poppies?
Other than planting ourselves outside of Kmart and Walmart all day long, we will also be participating in the Memorial Day celebration on Monday, May 25th, and that will begin at 10 o'clock at Gibson Hill Cemetery, VFW presentation of flowers. We'll proceed on to Roselawn Cemetery for the American Legion presentation, and then on to Sunset Park War Memorial for the services. After the services, VFW will be hosting lunch this year. It's their turn. And in case of bad weather, the program will be held at the VFW.
Thank you very much. I have a signed proclamation for you.
Okay, thank you.
Item 4.2, the week of May 17th through the 23rd, 2009, as National Public Works Week in the City of Salina. Keith Davis, Engineering Tech 2, will read the proclamation.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. I'd like to say that it is an honor and a privilege to stand before you and the citizens of Salina to present this proclamation. Proclamation of the City of Salina, Kansas. Whereas Public Works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as streets and highways, stormwater and levee systems, solid waste collection and disposal of operations, municipal fleet maintenance services, water treatment and distribution, wastewater collection and treatment, engineering and inspection, public facilities, and whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depends on these services and facilities each and every day, as well as in times of emergency and community disaster, and whereas the quality and effectiveness of these services and facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, is vitally dependent upon the efforts and skill of public works officials, and whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. Now, therefore, I am Lucy Larson, Mayor of the City of Salina, do hereby proclaim the week of May 17th through May 23rd, 2009 as National Public Works Week in the City of Salina, and I call upon all citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in the providing of our public works and to recognize the contributions which public works officials make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life.
Are there any events or functions you have planned for that week?
Yes, ma'am, there is. Let me first say that National Public Works Week is being celebrated throughout Kansas, across the United States this week. Tours and open houses, awards, banquets, and recognition ceremonies, classroom discussions and demonstrations, high school essay contests, parades and displays of public works equipment, media events, signing of resolutions and proclamations from mayors and governors in support and recognition are being passed. In Salina, we are planning on Wednesday, May 20th, 3 to 8 p.m. An open house will be held at General Services located at 412 East Ash Street, where the work and equipment of Public Works Department will be displayed and staff members will be available to discuss issues, concerns, and questions with any interested members of the public. Refreshments will be served. On Friday, May 22nd, City of Salina Public Works staff will provide and prepare a hamburger and hot dog luncheon for the men and women of the Public Works Department. Following the luncheon and awards ceremony, will recognize outstanding members of the Public Works Department and their accomplishments. That's the events.
Good. Sounds like you got lots going on this week.
We do.
I have a signed proclamation for you.
Item 4.3, presentation of plaques of appreciation to outgoing youth members of the Arts and Humanities Commission and the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
City of Salina, in appreciation for service rendered to the City of Salina, Kansas. Parks and Recreation Advisory Board Youth Representative thanks Hannah Bassett for her contribution June 2008 through May 2009.
Thank you.
Any words you'd like to say about your experience?
It was just fun to learn and see what goes on for Parks and Rec. I've actually worked for them, so it was kind of fun to see like what goes on behind the scenes of Parks and Rec as well. Thank you.
And the City of Salina, in appreciation for service rendered to the City of Salina, Kansas, Arts and Humanities Commission Youth Representative Javon Shackelford for your contribution June 2008 through May 2009. Thank you for your contribution, and anything you'd like to say about your experience.
Yeah, it was such an honor to work with all of the members of the Salina Arts and Humanities Commission. Connie Bonfi was great, John Heiken was great, and Sharon Benson was great. These people that are the true epitome of what hard work is, and they truly care about our town and the arts, so it was great.
Okay, thanks to both of you. We hope to see you sitting up here permanently one day in the future. Okay, all right, thank you.
Item 4.4, the month of May 2009 as National Preservation Month in the City of Salina. Elizabeth Deckers, member of the Heritage Commission, will read the proclamation.
Mayor Larson and fellow commissioners, this is a proclamation of the City of Salina. Whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for managing growth, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing visibility, and whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds, and whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a people. And whereas Displaced Matters is the theme for National Preservation Month 2009, co-sponsored by the City of Salina, Heritage Commission, and the National Trust for Historic Preservations. Now therefore, I am Lucy Larson, Mayor of the City of Salina, do proclaim May 2009 as National Preservation Month, and call upon the people of Salina to join their fellow citizens across the United States in recognizing and participating in this special observance. In witness whereof I have hereto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Salina, Kansas, to be affixed on this 18th day of May 2009.
So since you're observing this the entire month of May, I'm sure you've got a few things going on.
Actually, we just have one thing. On Thursday of this week in this room, I believe, John, we will be presenting 5 certificates for notable contributions to the city. 3 of these are residential, and they are located at 646 East Iron Avenue, 158 South 10th Street, and 231 West Prescott Avenue. That's the corner of 9th and Prescott. You might drive by and look at these. And we're also recognizing 2 groups for preservation and maintenance of landmark properties, and these are the Missouri Pacific Depot on North Santa Fe, and the other is the Anderson Brothers Broom Factory, which is one of the early structures in the city that is located on North Front Street.
Thank you very much. I have a signed proclamation.
Item 5.1, continued public hearing on special assessment projects. Sub-item 5.1A, resolution number 096622, amending resolution number 076450, providing for the advisability and authorizing improvements in the Eagle Crest Twin Homes project. Sub-item 5.1B, resolution number 096625, amending resolution number 086501, providing for the advisability and authorizing improvements in the Red Fox edition. Sub-item 5.1C, first reading ordinance number 09-10499, levying special assessments. Sub-item 5.1D, declare an emergency exists for second reading on the same day. Sub-item 5.1E, second reading ordinance number 09-10499.
Just a reminder that this public hearing is continued from last week, and so with that, we'll move to you, Mr. Stack.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. We talked a little bit about this last week, and we didn't really even change the blue sheet, I don't believe, other than the date. So we wanted to confirm with bond counsel and the property owners that this was going to be acceptable, and we did confirm that this week, and they understand the implications of that, where they were happy that their assessment went down. They were not happy they still had an assessment, but they understood, so we were able to get that clarified. I guess I kind of explained it a little bit last week. The only other questions we really received this week about this whole process was a side street assessment, and that is a typical question that we get. We actually have a flyer that kind of explains it. It's every subdivision usually has, you have a street that you front and sometimes a street that you have to get there to your street. And so if you only charge that side street assessment to a certain few property owners, like corner lots are an example, they shouldn't have to front the whole cost for those side streets. So that is the only questions that we received this week, was that side streets are always distributed evenly throughout the subdivision. So any questions on this?
Any questions of staff? I'll take this time now to open it up to public comment. If not, I'll bring it back to the Commission for action.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that the Commission approve resolution number 096622, amending resolution number 076450, which established the benefit district.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to amend resolution 07-6450, establishment of a benefit district for street drainage, water, and sanitary sewer improvements in the Eagle Crest Twin Homes addition. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Mr. Stack.
Okay. The next one is a needing to amend Red Fox petition as well. This is, staff did a lot of work last week, not me, mostly finance, so I want to give credit to them, and our bond counsel for making sure we had all our ducks in a row, and this was one that we thought we needed to get revised as well. The notice of petition sent to all the property owners had the correct number, so there's no question about that, except the resolution that was authorized back in June of '08 did not correctly describe it, basically. So we need to, the resolution is really the legal basis for bond counsel thought we needed to revise that to make sure it's clear. So there was no, the developer understood, he wasn't surprised, he said, yeah, that's what we expected to pay, so there was no questions there, but we thought we needed to revise this resolution as well to make sure that it was legally defendable. And I guess,
Questions?
go ahead.
Excuse me. Questions of Mr. Stack? Not, I'll open it up to public comment. Seeing that there's none, I'll go ahead and bring it back to the Commission for action.
Mayor, I move we approve resolution number 09-6625, which amends resolution 08-6501 related to the establishment of a benefit district for street drainage, water, and sanitary sewer improvements in the Red Fox Edition.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution number 09-6625, amending resolution number 08-6501, providing for the advisability and authorizing improvements in the Red Fox Edition. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
I'm back again.
Okay. It's the Dan Stack Show.
Yes. Okay, this is the actual continued public hearing on special assessment projects. This is the ordinance that will need to be passed today to levy the assessments, and I apologize for, I'm learning this process, and Rod, help me if I say anything. I just know we need to bond this, and we have to have the public hearing, and this has to start the process, and we've certified the costs, and actually have to emergency call for declare an emergency exists for a second reading today so that we can keep the same schedule of our public hearing process. And just a little background, normally this is hopefully what you'd see in future years. We hope to go through our processes internally and get these, the first two today, hopefully it won't happen every year. We try to make sure we run it through the right cycles, and for whatever reason, we'll try and do a better job in the future of making sure we don't have to revise legal descriptions, or we've got enough people in place that we think we can try and solve that in the future. So it'll hopefully be a little simpler.
Questions of Mr. Stack? I just realized since all of this was a public hearing, have I been doing this correctly? I've never had so many.
You're doing great, Mayor.
Well, I knew I didn't have to open it, but we need to be voting on these separately, is that correct?
Go ahead and take public comment on the ordinance, then you can close the public hearing.
On all of them or each single one?
Ordinance.
Okay. Any public comment? If not, do I close the hearing? At this time, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the Commission for action.
Mayor, I move we approve ordinance number 09-10499 on first reading. I would also move that we declare an emergency exists for second reading as well for today, and adopt ordinance number 09-10499 on second reading so that we can maintain the schedule set forth.
Second.
Don't we have to do those separately?
It would be best to take the vote on the first reading and the motion, and then the second reading.
So we could do first reading and then, okay, never mind.
I think,
So it's been, let's back up. It's been moved that we adopt ordinance number 09-10499, levying special assessments on first reading. Is there a second?
Second.
So do I need to amend the?
Do we do them one at a time, correct?
yes, it's best to
Vote on them one at a time.
One at a time.
Okay.
I think you can assume that all of the necessary motions have been made, Mayor, if you wanted just to proceed through the series of votes. That would be appropriate, I think.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Then there was also a motion on the floor to declare an emergency. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor to declare an emergency for the second reading on the same day, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And then I'll need the motion still stands for a second reading on ordinance 0910499 on the same day. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Angel?
Aye.
Commissioner Arpke?
Aye.
Commissioner Jennings?
Aye.
Commissioner Peck?
Aye.
Mayor Larson?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Item 6.1, approve the minutes of May 11th, 2009. Item 6.2, award of contract to repair fire damage to the Sunset Park Maintenance Building to Reinhardt Company in the amount of $13,050 and to purchase a Toro Groundmaster 7210 mower from Turf Professionals in the amount of $17,170. Item 6.3, resolution number 096627, appointing Blaine Bingston to the Arts and Humanities Commission and Christopher Arpin to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board as youth members.
Does any commissioner wish to pull anything from the consent agenda? If not, I'll need a motion to accept.
Mayor, I'd move we approve the consent agenda.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to accept this consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Development business.
Item 7.1, application number PDD 09-1, requesting a change in zoning district classification from R1 to PDD with underlining zoning of R1 on a tract of land located south of the Bicentennial Center in the Kenwood Park addition. Sub-item 7.1A, first reading ordinance number 09-10500. Sub-item 7.1B, declare an emergency exists for second reading on the same day. Sub-item 7.1C, second reading ordinance number 09-10500.
Mr. Andrew.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Just by way of a little bit of background here, the city acquired the property that is known as Kenwood Park today in 1917 for a price of $30,000. In 1929, the city entered into a lease with Salina County that allowed them to establish a county-owned and operated free fair in the park. That agreement was renewed and revised again in 1959, amended in 1977 to allow the Bicentennial Center to be constructed within the park. It was amended again in 1989 to allow construction of a city recreation center that was never built. And then there was an update that some of you were familiar with in March of 2009 that extended that lease with the county. You have the Ag Hall building, the rodeo grounds, and 4-H building that are county-owned today, and the existing municipal swimming pool and Bicentennial Center, which are city-owned today. And the zoning in this area has historically been R1, but in 1978, in order to facilitate the sale and serving of alcoholic beverages, not only at the Bicentennial Center, but at Ag Hall and the 4-H building, a portion of that area was rezoned to C3, about 57 acres. And so the reason you see for that dividing line there is that the C3 zoning was intended to cover areas that might have sale of beer or consumption of alcoholic beverages, and the athletic field there that was being used by the school district was not included in that rezoning request. Plans have been put forward for the aquatic center project. Those were reviewed by city staff, and we noted that there were a number of items there that didn't fit neatly or squarely within our existing zoning districts. Even if you were to rezone from R1 to something else, it wouldn't fit neatly. So the plan was to create a planned development district for this particular project to deal with design and layout issues. And that allows for you to create a customized district that applies just to this particular project. And so one of the things we identified on page 2 and 3 there of your report, and John, we may want to go to the site plan for that. There are about 5 items here that don't fit squarely within what the zoning ordinance, whether it was R1 or a different district, would allow for. And one of those items is we have some tubes for the slide structure here, as well as some storage buildings for inner tubes that are located within the 25-foot front yard setback along Kenwood Park Drive. There is a stair tower about right in this location. The platform's a little over 35 feet tall, but it will have a roof cover over it that would extend to 48 foot in height. And so to be consistent with the way that we measure the height of buildings to the peak of a roof, that was a 48-foot building. There's also a request to utilize the existing parking that's there for the Bicentennial Center, as opposed to having specific on-site parking for the Aquatic Center. There's a request, the sign would be down in this location for a 60-square-foot identification sign for that property. And then, John, I think the site utility plan shows a couple locations. There are a number of utility lines that are being rerouted to accommodate the footprint of this facility. There's a sewer line here and a storm sewer line parallel to that, and another one right here. And the City Commission does have the authority to grant permission for structures to be located over public utility easements, so that's been included in this as well. So we're looking at a site that contains almost 6 full acres, but only about 9,500 square feet of building area. The rest would be either surface facilities or green space. The 48-foot height for the roof over the stair tower platform. We did note on this particular plan that there's a need to get the fence that's along this location lined up with the surveyed property line, and we will work to make sure that that alignment takes place. As far as off-street parking, we tried to analyze this just as any other shared parking type arrangement. We gave you the example of a medical office and a church that might share the same parking lot, and the medical office uses it weekdays and the church uses it in the evenings and Sundays, and there's no reason to have separate or different parking lots if they don't overlap or conflict on their use. Here, I don't think we can absolutely say that the Bicentennial Center and the Aquatic Center or some of the other, that there'll never be a horse show at the same time as the Aquatic Center's in use, but there is a 30-year track record there of shared use of that facility for fairgrounds, for the existing swimming pool and the Bicentennial Center. It does seem to work in its current configuration, and it has been acceptable for that period of time. So we went through our checklist that relate to zoning and site plan items, and this does certainly meet minimum lot size requirements for such a facility. It is centrally located. You've got a number of similar type facilities, including the YMCA in the vicinity. This location's more than 1,000 feet from any residential area, so noise impact should be minimal, except for the occasional multiple event. The shared parking has shown to be adequate over time, and there will be good access to all locations. This will be accessible by all modes of transportation, walking, biking, the City Go system, as well as vehicle parking. And as far as the circulation goes, you have a path, which just off this picture here, there's a ramp and a sidewalk. So if you're parking in this location here, there's a handicapped accessible ramp and a sidewalk that will lead you to the front entrance here. There's a vehicle drop-off here, so if you're dropping off children in this location here, they can be dropped off at the curb and go to that location. There's a City Go bus stop right here at this location, and then there's a plan for a 10-foot wide multi-use path along here, so it should be accessible by all modes of transportation. So we've kind of summarized the basic elements of that. The Planning Commission had a public hearing on this on May the 13th. They unanimously recommended approval, subject to the conditions that you see in their report there. And again, they did recommend approval of the 5 modifications as to front yard setback, structure height, allowance for a shared parking arrangement with the bi-center, the identification sign as proposed, and then the construction over projected easements in 2 locations. So if you are in concurrence with their recommendation, well, the blue sheet doesn't exactly reflect that, but the first item, if you're in agreement, would be to approve the attached ordinance on first reading. And then in order to keep this on schedule with item 8.5 and a scheduled pre-construction conference, our recommendation would be to declare an emergency exists as your second step, and then as a third step, a motion for second reading on the same day. That will complete all the City Commission action on this at today's meeting. With that, I'd be open to any questions about the site or zoning related items. I'm going to defer to Mr. Snyder on 8.5 if you have questions about specific features, and let him address those in more detail. You've got quite a bit of stuff in your packet, but some of those drawings are small and difficult to read, so we do have them available here. But as to actual features of the park, I defer that to your bid question.
Mr. Andrew, I just have one quick question here, and I was trying to read through all of this, and you're right, the map is a little small, but I think this was fairly well marked. I didn't realize that there was a well line that goes right through there. What happens to that? Is that going to be affected any at all? I can't tell on this drawing where that well line is, but it was in relationship to the layout of the pool, but I could see it on the older drawings where it showed the track.
This is referred to as the site demolition plan, and what this is indicating is if it's marked like that, that means it's going to be relocated or capped off and relocated. Same goes for a sewer line here. That'll be rerouted to the outside. I think Martha could best explain where those are being rerouted to, but if it's hatched like that, it means it's going to be rerouted to get it out of the construction site.
Well, and that well line, I understand the other ones. I didn't realize sometimes there were well lines, and so what do you do there?
That well line will also be relocated to the south along the fence area and outside of the swimming pool proper.
Okay.
Martha, what kind of costs are involved in that?
I'm trying to remember estimates. I think it was in the $150,000 range, and Kevin, you may be able to address that better now that we have bids, but that's my... I don't have a breakdown of the bid, but that is the range, right? That's what we spoke of earlier.
Total or per line?
Total.
Total?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions of either Mr. Andrew?
I do on the handicap parking, whoever wants to address that.
I'll give it a try.
Why don't you go ahead and pull up that site plan that showed the drop-off and handicap area and walk me through that one more time. It looks like that we are making a cognizant decision here to place our handicap parking not immediately as close as possible to the entrance of the facility like we would typically.
Full site plan, John.
And then how many spaces? I've got the breakout of that in there. It looked like we had a few spaces in there, but
this, if we get it blown up a little bit, this area right here does not exist today, and so the plan would be, this is the edge of the curb of the existing paving, and then they were going to cut a driveway through here and create an area in here with 5 handicapped accessible spaces. You could park there and get to the front entry gate here. There's also an addendum, which Mr. Snyder will be discussing, that will involve resurfacing and restriping this area here, and as part of that, they're going to have to put somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 8 additional spaces out in this area here as well. So this is designated handicapped accessible parking. This is just a drop-off area here, but there will probably be in this location along here some additional handicapped accessible spaces that'll be done when that is, if that is resurfaced and restriped.
And then, if I may, I would add that that quantity was calculated based on the required parking calculation, regardless of any exception that's granted as part of the PDD. So, DRT staff reviewed the locations and the quantities to confirm ADA compliance.
Is it a percentage of the occupancy, maximum occupancy?
It's a ratio based on the number of required or provided parking spaces. So this was based on the required number of spaces that would be for this particular use.
For this use?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Commissioners, one thing I'd like to point out in addition to that is, you look at that location, it's probably as close as any other of the parking spaces. The benefit is when someone would get out and use the access aisle, they'll go to a sidewalk immediately in front of the vehicle, and that actually keeps them from walking into any of the path of travel of the vehicle. So we're able to create actually a safer parking environment for those spaces, theoretically, than when they're out in the larger parking lot.
Because if you're parking here, you'd have to cross this driving aisle, get out into a driving aisle and cross to get in, whereas here, you'd get right up on a sidewalk and come to the gate. So you would have those choices.
Any other questions of Mr. Andrew? If not, I'll ask for public comment.
My name's excuse me. My name's Harry Kazicki. I live at 1357 Camp Road, Solomon, Kansas. I'm here as president of the Salina Aquatics Club, and I'd like to talk about this facility. I noticed we're going to declare an emergency again. Seems like we have a lot of emergencies here. I would like to talk about the addition of a 50-meter pool, a 50-meter lap pool in the facility. Every other town in Kansas that has recently built of Salina's size, every other town of Salina's size that has built a swimming facility has supported the swimming community by having a 50-meter pool in their design. Unfortunately, so far our commission has not done that. I feel that that is a mistake in that the purpose of a facility like this, one of the things should be to support the swimming community.
Sir, and without interrupting you, this is just to approve the zoning change. Do you want to save your comments for when that comes up on the agenda a little bit later on?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Just on the zoning,
You have to do this first.
My big question on the zoning is, why are we declaring an emergency again? I didn't fully appreciate.
I understand it's a timeline situation.
Yeah, it's a logistical issue so that the land use decisions can be made prior to awarding a bid and obligating yourself to the project.
We're declaring an emergency so we can do a first and a second reading of an ordinance. Otherwise, if we waited a week, it would just delay it by a week. And we've got to get the land in order so that we can proceed with the next step.
I see. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to bring up the aquatic park later on, if you don't mind hanging in there. Any other public comment? If not, I'll bring it back to the commission for action.
Mayor, I'd like to
Go ahead.
say we approve ordinance 09-10500 to create a PBDD 09-1 to let us take this tract of land and make it accessible to build the pool.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept ordinance number 0910500 on first reading. Is that correct? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Mayor, I'd like to declare that an emergency exists and that we approve this ordinance 0910500 on second reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to declare an emergency for a second reading on the same day. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Mayor, I'd like to have a second reading on ordinance 0910500.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance number 0910500 on second reading. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Angel?
Aye.
Commissioner Arpke?
Aye.
Commissioner Jennings?
Aye.
Commissioner Peck?
Aye.
Mayor Larson?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Administration.
Item 8.1, second reading ordinance number 0910498, adding section 38-49 to Article 3 of Chapter 8 of the Salina Code pertaining to temporarily designating and reserving parking on public streets within the corporate limits for persons with a disability.
Ordinance number 0910498 was passed on first reading on May 11th, 2009. Since that time, no comments have been received. Is there any public comment at this time? Seeing that there is none, I'll bring it back to the commission for action.
Mayor, I'd move we adopt ordinance number 09-10498 on second reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance number 09-10498 on second reading. Will the clerk please call roll?
Commissioner Angel?
Aye.
Commissioner Arpke?
Aye.
Commissioner Jennings?
Aye.
Commissioner Peck?
Aye.
Mayor Larson?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Item 8.2, resolution number 096624, authorizing and providing for the alteration, repair, or reconstruction of sanitary sewer and providing for the payment of costs.
Mr. Franz.
Mayor and Commissioners, thank you. This action sets the foundation for future financing on a number of projects out of our capital improvements plan. Specific projects that this addresses are the replacement of a number of wastewater pump stations and force mains in the city, including along the East Dry Creek Interceptor. It also includes the extension of wastewater services to the area bounded by Markley and East Magnolia Road. Estimated cost for these projects taken as a sum are thought to be on the order of $5,925,000. We are proposing that we will be issuing revenue bonds probably in early 2010 to finance these projects. Process must be followed to initiate a revenue bond such as this is to pass a resolution by 2/3 vote and then publish a notice, wait for public comment. There's a waiting period of 15 days and then we can proceed with letting contracts on the projects. And there is a contract that will be ready to go for the first phase of this construction in the early part of June, which is why we're doing this now. Be glad to answer any questions.
Questions of city staff?
How long have these wastewater treatment pumping stations been in service?
The East Dry Creek Interceptor was installed in the early 1990s, I believe, and the rest of them I would have to defer to Mrs. Tasker. Many of our pump stations are relatively aged, I do know.
Rod is correct. The East Dry Creek Interceptor was in 1993. Many of these pump stations, if you're referencing the ones that are under the wastewater pump station and force main rehabilitation project, many of those stations go back to 40-plus years of age. and range on from that point on up. But several years old.
Okay, so we're going to design to improve these pump stations, and they'll have a longer lifetime, or?
We're at a point where the pumps and the electrical components are just difficult to get repair parts and such, and they basically outlived their useful life, and time to bring them up to current technology.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Now I'll open it up for public comment. Seeing that there is none, I'll bring it back to the commission for action.
Mayor, I'd move we adopt resolution number 09-6624, authorizing and providing for the alteration, repair, or reconstruction of sanitary sewer and providing for the payment of costs.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt Resolution 09-6624. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Item 8.3, award of contract for cellular telephone services.
Mr. Franz.
Mayor and Commissioners, the city provides, at this point, 54 phones to a group of employees for their use during their jobs. We have typically arranged for a series of 2-year contracts to provide cellular service. The last such contract was entered into in 2007 with U.S. Cellular and expires this year. As a result, we did a request for proposals. We received 3 qualified proposals from U.S. Cellular, from Alltel/Verizon, and from Sprint. Our recommendation, based on pricing and features, is that we authorize a contract with Sprint for this next 2-year period. They are the least costly and provide a satisfactory package of services.
Is this just phone minutes? There's no texting or email?
This is phone minutes. They obviously have other features available. Typically, those are not a part of the package. We do have, I believe, some of the phones on which we have allowed texting for one reason or another.
I can send you a text.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Yes, I noticed the service center for that is in Wichita for Sprint. Is that going to create any issues?
They've indicated that we could obtain service at their local storefront location.
Mr. Franz, do you know if our inspectors and billing services carry cell phones? I've heard some comment from contractors that it'd be helpful if they could get a hold of them on cell phones.
They do carry cell phones, yes. Matter of fact, some of them use them quite extensively.
They do?
Yes.
That are available for contractors?
Maybe they don't get the numbers out.
I don't know that they give the numbers out and they don't return calls outside of working hours. I think that's part of the question that came up, was being able to contact them at the contractor's initiation as well as outside of business hours.
So they have the cell phones, but they don't give the phone numbers out to the contractors that they're working with.
They return calls on code issues from the field, but they, in terms of trying to schedule their work such that they're able to respect the inspection that they're on, they don't necessarily take phone calls when the call comes in.
Got it.
And this said 54 lines, so I take it, is that 54 employees?
That is 54 employees, yes.
Okay, and these are usually department heads?
It could be a
Administrative.
variety of employees. Inspectors, meter service people carry them. It could be a wide variety, number of police officers, firefighters.
Oh, so that number's including even fire and
Yes.
Police?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then that's not very many when you think about it.
Yeah. Commissioner, just one thing to note, too. It used to be, what was the total number before we instituted the
It
stipend?
was about 90 before.
We have a stipend option. I believe it's $25.
Yeah.
It's taxable. And basically, it's for those, we give an option because for us, quite honestly, administratively, it's easier to deal with the stipend than it is to deal with phone bills and personal calls, non-personal, and that type of thing. But we still felt we probably needed the option of the business phone. What sometimes happens is if someone has their own personal phone and then they have a city business phone, they kind of feel like they need to carry both because there may be a situation in which someone else needs to get a hold of them for non-business related reasons, and if they only have the city phone, then they cross over into that non-business use.
So you're saying that some employees can take their personal cell phone and you pay them a stipend for using their personal cell phone?
Yeah, and they sign an agreement that says it'll be available for all city use. So it's an option that they have. You can either go with the $25 per month stipend, which is taxable, or go with the business, and you can use it however you want because it's your phone, so you don't cross over in that personal public use, or just a pure public use with the city-issued phone.
And obviously those phones then can be answered after hours because they choose whether they're going to answer that phone number or not. It's their personal number, is that correct?
The city phone?
The stipend, the people that are receiving the stipend.
Oh, the stipend, yeah, they can use it
They
whenever
answer
they
their
want.
phone anytime.
Yeah. The issue isn't really the phones. Any issue on after hours is payroll. Once somebody answers the phone after hours, you're into overtime. Yeah, and I say that, under the old policy, under the new policy, you're going to add up hours for the whole week. So, but under the old policy, it was an automatic overtime. So it's more of a business scheduling question than it is a phone question.
Approximately how many of our city employees are on this stipend?
Well, again, the old number is about 90, so it's about half and half for the most part.
Okay, I see. We still have those. You've got 54 that are under the city policy and then another 40 or so
40
that
or
are
so,
receiving
yeah.
a stipend.
And
I
you
understand.
can't get both. It's one or the other.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, what about phones under this? You're switching carriers, and sometimes that means you have to switch equipment. Is that included in here? And
Yes.
is there any concern over somebody on staff right now that has their phone and you got to transfer over all the numbers and all the schedule and all that?
That's a process we go through, yes.
All in a day's work. Any other questions? Thank you. I'll open it up to public comment. Not, I'll bring it back to the commission for action.
Mayor, I move that we award the contract for cellular telephone service to Sprint.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to award the contract for cellular telephone services to Sprint. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Item 8.4, resolution number 096626, authorizing an agreement with Salina County for the county's acquisition of an easement on city property along Farley Road.
Mr. Stack? Back to you.
That'd be 8.4.
Thank you.
Have to text him.
Discussing phones. I have a stipend, so Okay.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
The county approached us a few months ago about an easement along our landfill, on the south side of our landfill. This is for the Great Plains Regional Training Center being constructed out there around the old Smoky Old Bombing Range, basically. So it's a large project. It's federally funded. Supposedly, they're still getting the funds, and so this is the time they really need to get the easements. And we've met with them a couple times on site to see what the impacts this will have to our landfill. It's actually a roadway easement, so it doesn't affect our setback for our landfill purposes. So that was a good thing. The only bad thing is there is a lot of trees that actually screen the landfill out there, and they are some very mature red cedars that have been planted over the years, and most people like a landfill that's screened. So we really need to replant all these trees, and there's a lot of them. And we have basically, we tried to work with them to see if we were going to kill them all or take them all out or only half of them, but it just was easier administratively for them and for us to just say, okay, what's the cost of this property and what's the cost of the trees? And we came up with $4,000. That gets us quite a few trees, depending on how we plant them, and is plenty for what we believe they're going to impact. So we feel like this is a fair trade, and it will get us on down the road. Any questions?
Any questions?
With the trees, how long will it take to kind of reestablish, or are we guessing, and what would have been like the alternate cost to build a nice big big, beautiful wall out there. No.
Yeah, we talked about fencing. I mean, fencing is going to be an issue someday. So a large, nice, wind-proof fence would be really expensive, and a wall would be even more. So we just felt like for the cost of what that would be, if we can just, Steve Blue met with us. He's our city forester, and he looked at seedlings and the size of red cedars, and it said it'd take 5 to 10 years for them to really get bushy and be a really good screen. So we are taking a hit on the trees for a while. But they should, ultimately, 4 rows will get us a really good screening if we can get them to grow and do well.
So what size are these going to be, trees?
Maybe saplings, small saplings, maybe even seeds, depending on how we have to plant them. These will be very small trees, yes.
Can we not buy mature trees?
Could be real expensive, though.
Well, the county's paying for it, right?
Well, that's the other thing, is the county, it's a pass-through from the federal government, so the federal government has to okay the easement costs, and I don't know exactly how, but it's a good question. I mean, there was a thought of donating the land, and then, so now we're up to $4,000, and you have the opportunity to ask for whatever you want in this case, because they are good trees, but what's fair for the property value of $1,500 an acre is about the going rate for property, and that's, good farm ground. So arguably this isn't good farm ground, but it's good for us. So we feel like we're at least getting a fair compensation for what normally people would have to pay out there.
Dan, did you guys look at the cost of a more mature tree, whether it be a 4-foot or 6-foot? And obviously, the larger the tree, there's always probably a little more risk that it'll die early on. But did you look at that to get an idea what that would be?
We did some, because the county has lots of property owners who try to get rid of red cedars, and there's spades out there that you can actually transplant them and put them here. But in the whole mile and the amount we're looking at and the time frame, it just sounded like it was going to be administratively tough to find a whole bunch of 1,400 red cedars that are mature at this point.
Well, and about how many are we taking out? Probably that same amount.
Yeah.
And where are they going? Are we recycling them? Is there anything we can do with all these trees? Is it just going to go lay in a pile somewhere?
Yeah, that was the question. Is there's 4 rows of them in some places, and we try to salvage 2 rows that would help. But a motor grader and a construction crew, they just don't take care of trees that well unless you go and pick them out ahead of time. They just do not save them. It just doesn't. It's hard to even try. So it's even if we try, they would be tough to do.
Okay. Any other questions of staff? Public comment? If not, I'll bring it back to the Commission for action.
Is there any way we could hold off on this for 1 week, or is that going to really mess things up?
Good question. Dan, is there any real pressing issue with the timing for a week?
It's hard to say. The county really needs this to be done quickly. They're expecting federal funds, but I don't know if 2 weeks, I don't know if that would be a major problem for them.
2 weeks.
Yeah, if it was next Monday, I'd say no way. There wouldn't be a problem at all, but 2 weeks.
The
They really wanted me to get it to you today, but I think that was also to see what happens. So you have the opportunity. You have the option to do that either way.
I guess I'm not sure I'm comfortable.
Is there other information you'd like us to find out for over the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, I suppose. If it was something that was really pressing to them that we found out later was really pressing, perhaps there's 5 minutes in a day we could all get together and pass this item or something, I don't know, with a special.
Have an emergency meeting to pass this.
If need be.
I guess I'll ask a question of our legal counsel on this. See here, I guess the question is Greg, could the commission authorize this to, or the mayor, whomever, to enter into this contingent upon a federal funding timing requirement, but otherwise, in essence, hold off for 2 weeks? some kind of a contingent approval based on that issue.
I believe so. In the case of a resolution like this, that would be certainly an option.
The federal funding they've been waiting on it for a while, so for some reason they believe it's coming, but it's a good question. Federal funds, you don't know if they're coming tomorrow or in a year, so it's been
Oh
a
my
challenging
goodness.
process for them as well, because they've expected it for a while now.
Wait, hurry up. You want to put it off?
Yeah, I would move we postpone this for our next meeting in 2 weeks.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we postpone resolution number 096626 for a couple of weeks. I thought you mentioned unless we have to have a meeting, declare an emergency meeting, we can postpone it for either 2 weeks, or if we need to resolve this quicker than that because of the holiday being next week. Would that work?
So Jason, your comment was basically, if we postpone it for 2 weeks, we have to hold to that 2-week time frame. So if we had a contingency in there and needed to get together beforehand,
We couldn't?
Yeah, I'm going to defer to Greg on procedurally how you would deal with the postponement. My thought was if you could give a conditional approval, and that conditional approval is contingent upon a federal funding deadline that we could not otherwise meet. I'm presuming that if you know on the county side for that road, for Crisis City and all that out there, that there's a federal funding deadline and they have to have a decision, say, within a week, that you'd move forward with this, even though the trees may not be what we'd like to see out there. But if that's not the case, that you'd like to bring it back in 2 weeks. So that's
my only thing is I assume that they could consider it a pretty urgent thing, and that'd be a little bit subjective. I don't know.
I think we could probably require documentation on the timeline if we
Okay.
needed to, just to make sure.
I'd rather postpone it for 2 weeks, and if something else comes up that we need to get together, then I assume we can do that, Greg?
I think we can put that in place if that is your wish, and possibly as part of the motion to make clear that you would also be authorizing the mayor to call a special meeting if, out of necessity, it was required to address the matter sooner than the 2-week.
Okay, along with my motion, then I would go ahead and include that the mayor could call together a special meeting if the county needs us to do that for their funding.
Second.
Okay, once again, it's been moved and seconded to postpone resolution number 096626 for 2 weeks, and giving the mayor authorization to call a special meeting if need be in the meantime. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0.
Item 8.5, award of contract for the construction of a family aquatic facility.
Mayor and Commissioners, I'd like to give you a little background on the aquatic facility. Starting with last year, a year ago in June, the City Commission authorized an agreement with Aquatic Design Consultants, Lewisburg, Kansas, for the professional design work for a family aquatic park to be located in Kenwood Park. The month of July last year, a survey was conducted, both paper surveys as well as online, asking citizens for their input and their prioritization and recommendations on features they would like to see included in a new facility. On August 18th, the City Commission approved on second reading a charter ordinance allowing the city to issue up to $12.5 million in bonds for construction of a family aquatic park. Then on November 4th, as we're aware, voters approved a 0.4% sales tax, in part to pay for construction, operation, and maintenance of an aquatic park. Basically, that sales tax vote extended the existing quarter cent and added 15 hundredths for the aquatic facility. Following approval of the sales tax referendum, an agreement with Aquatic Design Consultants was approved for final design, construction documents, and bidding services for a new aquatic facility. All general contractors on the bid documents were required to select a pool contractor from a list of 4 pre-qualified pool contractors. The bid package also included 2 alternates, a spray ground similar to the ones that we have today that are located in Hawthorne, Centennial, and Jerry Ivy parks, and a mill and 2-inch overlay of the southwest parking lot of the Bicentennial Center, which Mr. Andrew identified on his earlier discussion, which will serve as the primary parking lot for the aquatic park. Bids were opened on Tuesday, May 5th, with 5 companies submitting bids. Bids submitted including the company, base bid, alternates, and total cost. I won't go through all those, but I will give you that the low bid on a base bid was submitted by Straub Construction of Shawnee, Kansas for $10,269,100, ranging to the high base bid of $11,490,000. The 2 alternates ranged from $270,000 to $303,000 for the spray ground, and $118,000 to $127,000 for the parking lot. And the totals, including both alternates, $10,699,300 was the low bid for total, including 2. Construction must be completed. Substantial construction must be completed by May 7th, 2010. This date will allow for training of staff, startup, and operational review of the facility for opening on Memorial Day weekend 2010. The facility will include a number of amenities that were prioritized by citizens and will be an asset for the community. Basically, the survey pointed out some of the features that we anticipated. The large slides, there's 5 of those, the lazy river with spray features, a river rapids ride, zero depth pool area with a wave action feature, a children's area with slides and play features, obstacle course pool, and a 6-lane 25-meter lap pool with diving well are the main attractions for the site. One major issue that we would like to have you consider is the acceptance of alternates. As I mentioned, the spray grounds is similar to the ones that we currently have in operation. The 2 spray grounds located in Hawthorne and Centennial Park were constructed in 2002 by a local contractor, while the Ivy Park facility built in 2005, the city performed as the general contractor, hiring the subs. The first two parks were built for just over $100,000 each, while the Ivy Park one built later was about $87,000. One factor of the park design allows the spray ground to be isolated from the rest of the facility and therefore can be opened earlier in the year and remain open later after the main facility would close down. Generally, we are opening the spray grounds today around the 1st of May. And with our history, they've been staying open until about the first week in October. The design, if you saw that, and I'll point it out, the spray ground was located right in this area, and this fencing there's fencing that goes across this entry area so that this could be isolated during the so-called off-season for use at that time. Based on the bid amount for the alternate number 1 on the low bid, $303,000, and the engineer's estimate of approximately $190,000, it's our recommendation to reject the alternate number 1 and consider completing the project as a standalone project to be constructed by separate bid. Alternate number 2, as indicated, calls for asphalt milling on the 2-inch overlay of the parking lot. This will allow us to reconfigure parking and provide the additional handicap accessible parking spaces as it came up in question earlier. Electing alternate 2 and waiving alternate number 1 would result in a total project cost of $10,396,200, and Straub Construction would remain the low bidder. It does not change the order of submitted bids. The Family Aquatic Facility will be financed with 10-year bonds funded with the $1,500 sales tax approved by voters November 4th. It is anticipated the 10-year sales tax will generate approximately $15 million. Obviously, a portion of the $12 million or 12.5 cost is for design and administration services,
and the range of these bids will allow us to establish a maintenance and replacement fund as well. And total cost of construction, design, and administration will be $11,386,200. That is accepting alternate number 2 and not number 1 on that number. Therefore, it's staff's recommendation the City Commission award a contract to construct a family aquatic facility, project number 08-2735, to Straub Construction Company, Shawnee, Kansas, in the amount of $10,396,200. That is obviously the base bid of $10,269,100 plus the alternate number 2 of $127,100. I'd be glad to answer any question. Also today, Kevin McEllier, the engineer from Aquatic Design Consultants, is here in case there's some questions that you would like to address to him as well.
Mr. Snyder, if we do not accept that alternate right now, the spray grounds, is there anything similar like that anywhere else? In other words, if we do not do
In the proposed facility?
Right.
The children's area, which is located right here, has the dumping buckets, their little spring toys.
Right.
That is an area, it's got its own little slide. This area is designated for children, so yes, there is.
Similar to that, it'll be
Yes.
similar to the spray grounds, okay. And if we, when we do incorporate those spray grounds, are you saying that during the pool season, it would be closed off to the public? You have to come to the pool to use those spray grounds, but yet when the pool closes, you'd be able to access that?
You could actually do it either way. Obviously, we would have the ability to close this off so that when you had May and September and you had decent weather, that facility would be open, but no access to this area.
Okay.
If you had this particular alternate, you could treat it as a free facility like we do the kiddie pool today, where that's free, but to go to the big pool, you have to pay. Or you could just open that up and have that part of the paid facility, one way or the other. One of the issues of not having it available or as part of this facility is obviously restroom issues, because there's no outdoor restrooms in this particular area that are, this one has been disconnected over in this area, in this little dressing room here. We do have that very issue at Hawthorne Park where there's not a public restroom, so it's not some issue that we obviously didn't decide not to build in that location. The other two, Centennial and Ivy, do have restrooms within the vicinity of the neighborhood park.
And that looks fairly large. I mean, that spray ground looks fairly large. How does that compare? The one I'm most familiar with is the one at Jerry Ivy. How does that compare in
It's very
size?
similar in the design size. It's circular, and the number of features. I think this one actually, I counted, looked like it had 7 features. Others have 6. And when I say that, it could be a multiple spray that's all one feature. There may be 3 pop-up jets. I'm counting that as 1. Okay. And then there's 3 that are above grade, just similar to what we see in the other 3 spray ground areas.
Okay. Any other questions of staff?
Mr. Snyder, I kind of separate this out in my mind, so I can think about it as kind of the aquatics park and the swim laps. Would it be in any way possible to delay construction on the lap pool because of the interest in possibly having a 50-meter pool to give the Salina Aquatics Club or other individuals time to do some private fundraising to help pay for the added cost of having the 50-meter, but still move forward on the aquatic side and open that up while we're doing construction?
I'm going to have Kevin come up and answer that, but I'm going to believe it'll affect the filter building and whether this is a standalone filtered system. This one, it is a standalone. This is Kevin McEllier that can answer that.
Thank you.
Yeah, right now it's designed inside of that building. This building adjacent to it is the filter building. Those filters are designed for this particular size pool now. You know, if we are going to change this to a 50-meter pool, it would require the additional pool out in this area, but it also required changes to this building. We'd have to make it larger to accommodate the filters for that larger size pool. Timing-wise, this project, the way it is now, the entire project, to open up by Memorial Day like we're planning for 2010, it's very tight now to make that happen, all of this included. You know, before the meeting, this came up to me to be thinking about the 50-meter thing. And I think, even to stay on your schedule, what we could do is if we get the contractor on board, where we can work with them to see what some kind of a change order would be, as well as the impact to their schedule. That's one way to approach it. And it may be such that a schedule on something like that, even if the change order was okay, it may have to be that this area opened up later than this area. And we haven't given this a whole lot of thought. We really need to sit down with the contractor to work through those thoughts, but that's about how it would have to happen. I don't see us being able to open all of this with the redesign that would have to occur, and the construction time added to our time. I don't see this all as a 50-meter complex and all this other stuff being done by Memorial Day.
So
It would be very unlikely that could happen.
Everything is controlled from that building?
Well,
All the
yeah,
pumps and everything for the
well,
entire
not- yeah,
facility?
The filtration systems, all the chemical treatment systems, everything for all of these pools is occurring in this building, including this 25-meter pool. So right now, the building footprint is just to include the filters that we need for the pools that are shown. So as we grow that pool volume, we have different filters that have to be designed now, and they wouldn't fit in this footprint. So that building footprint has to change to
Right.
accommodate the larger filters that would be required.
Thank you.
And that pinch for schedule that we're talking about, that's not based on a contractor's derived schedule? Is that correct?
That's based on our discussions with the contractor and what we know it takes to build these pools now. That's just my best.
It's a best guess, I
Right now.
appreciate that, and the budget numbers were a best guess.
Right.
So I take a little more validity if the contractor was here.
He's here.
And I would like to hear from them, especially on the schedule issue, because I will definitely go on record saying if we use schedule as our issue, we will hit the schedule, no matter what. And if not, we need to know in this meeting right now, what are the things that are going to hold it back? Because we certainly don't want to get to date, and then we're not opening up on time, and then we don't have the pool bigger or the opportunity to look at it or those things. So from the very first time that I've had a chance to talk about this, the engineering was in process and the schedule was the pertinent thing. There was a couple of weeks' time in which we could gather enough public support to dedicate to the entire cost of the alternative to proceed. So I would really like to hear from schedule on the part of the contractor, knowing I, for one, would put their feet to the fire because I've been in their shoes before.
Yeah. We do have Michael Knight here from the contractor.
I'm Michael Knight with Straub Construction. I'm VP of Business Development for them. The 50-meter discussion on the pool, it kind of got thrown at me here about at the beginning of the meeting, so it's hard to process and tell you and inform you enough to make a decision tonight of what our schedule impact is. I do foresee a process where, Kevin and the Parks and Rec have to work together getting this thing reformatted just to process it to realize actual costs. We do have some lead time to the filtration system, since it's a centralized filtration, and I just don't have enough time here to analyze it and give it what it's probably due to tell you the full schedule impact. I can tell you our intent is to make your schedule. We have confidence that your project delivery methods will work just fine. We're used to working with public entities. We know the processes it takes to make these projects happen. We would do everything we can to incorporate it into the project if it was decided, but to tell you right here and now if it could be done within schedule, I cannot do that, honestly.
But the project itself, ignoring that issue, So if we say that as a commission we decide not to proceed because we're not certain as to the schedule impacts, the project as we're looking at it right there, it can hit without a doubt the schedule that's laid out, and then if there's some doubt, what are those doubts? I mean, yeah, it could rain every day and then we don't do anything, but that's the discussion, because we've been told plenty that the schedule is very aggressive and very, very worrisome.
We think the schedule is doable. We will sign a contract and execute the schedule as it's drawn and be successful with it.
Okay.
No questions.
My question back to Mr. Snyder. Thank you. Thanks for your honest opinion. In the event that it doesn't hit that schedule and we have to delay the opening of the pool for 30 days or 60 days or whatever the case may be, when are you making the executive decision? Or are we not opening the old pool at all? So that next year, if we run into this conflict, is there a possibility that we will go sometime without a pool, with the old one not opened and the new one not completed?
Well, we really didn't anticipate having to make that decision, and I say that not from Mr. McKnight's comment a minute ago, but I have talked with the vice president of the company who assured me the time frame, which obviously we've heard issues about that, is not an issue with this project as designed to have that done by the 7th of May. We did not anticipate or not anticipating opening the Kenwood pool next year at all, based on substantial completion that would allow us the time to fill, train, and staff and be ready to go by Memorial Day of next year. So to address that question, as we have not had to think that far ahead that says, what if? We said that this is what we've got, this is the time frame, they've promised to meet that, there's liquidated damages if they don't, and I told them today, and also talking with to the references, asking questions about timing issues, which there didn't appear to be any in the projects that I had discussed with them, that we were not anticipating that to be an issue, that these references said they make every attempt to have a project done by the stated completion date. Now, if you change something, that may alter that.
And that was going to be my next statement. In the event that we take in consideration the redesign and the re-quote of a 50-meter pool, you know just as sure as we're sitting here today that that's going to delay everything. So I'm assuming if we get to that point, are we going to have to revisit the possibility of keeping Kenwood open or keeping the original pool open until we can figure out when the new pool may open for real? And does this stand a chance of not opening at all in 2010?
Well, I assume that's an option that we would have to consider. Up to this point, obviously, we haven't. Because, as I said, that we were not looking at anything. There may be, and hopefully not, change orders, but there could likely be some small change orders. This is a major change order if we go this route today.
Correct.
I think that was suggested, and possibly look at, if that's the case, to look at the completion of the remaining portion of the facility and not the lap pool area. Now, as Kevin mentioned, that filter building would have to be redesigned immediately, incorporated into the project if that additional length of lap pool was added. So that would have to be done, whether the other part was delayed or not,
Okay.
whether this part was delayed.
I understand.
Commissioners, there would be a few things that may affect your start, and I say may, and Kevin might be able to answer these. One is we'd first have to negotiate the agreement for any redesign with Kevin's firm. Second, then, he would have to kind of know where you're headed fairly soon, which means we'd have to negotiate, you'd have to award a bid, and then negotiate a major change order for that expansion. And it may possibly affect starting, because not only redesign, but just coordination of when we start, because they need to know what scope they're really working under and how it would affect where they start on the project. So it may or may not affect it, but it could. Secondly, if we do have construction that would go beyond the opening date of the lap pool, we have a construction zone work area over there. We're going to have to be sure that we deal with that while we have 1,500 or more people coming into the pool itself. So that's something we'd have to plan for as well. Access, the whole thing. The other thing that's a pretty pretty serious issue, and I may defer this to the city's legal counsel, to Greg, is that typically when you have a project, your change orders will be fairly small in comparison. This would be a major change order, and right now in your bids in front of you, there's about, well, on the blue sheet's about $100,000 difference, but if you choose to defer the spray ground, that brings it about $16,000 closer. So you're within the roughly $84,000 difference in bids on a almost $11 million project. If you have a change order, presuming that we can negotiate after this bid is awarded, something that you're comfortable with, and I think just a rough number from before was at 700,000, somewhere in there. But we don't know that that's the number that we're talking about. So 700, 800, whatever that is, assuming you're comfortable with that, then we may get to answer a question from the second bidder, which was within 84,000, that says, you know, I don't know for sure, but I may have been able to be more competitive with a big, broader scope project. I don't know if that's a legal issue or if a practical issue, and that's why I defer to Greg to see if he believes there's any legal questions regarding that, but it's certainly a question that could be brought up if you're the number 2 bidder and you're this close and you didn't get the chance to look at the bigger package. So it's something to be thinking about. And then the other thing is we haven't crossed the line here at all, but we want to be really careful not to get too much into future obligations of a change order when we haven't yet even awarded a bid on a sealed bid type process. So we want to be a little bit careful there. But as I mentioned, we haven't gotten to that line, so I'm not too concerned about that. But just want to make you aware of that as well.
Understand that. Did you want to answer that? Or did you?
Well, I might just speak quickly, Mayor and Commissioners, if I may, that certainly the city manager has described the practical implications of that discussion. The bid process is obviously for your benefit as you address the public interest. But there are legal aspects to that potentially, and they are of a nature I would rather discuss those with you if you wish in executive session rather than otherwise.
A few questions then that came up here. One is, we could always design the filter house for the size that we would need for a 50-meter pool and pull the pool and rebid the project without a pool. I mean, that might not be desirable, but we could do that if we couldn't reach an issue on such a big part of it. The alternates that we have, the spray ground and the parking and the handicap parking next to the facility, those were part of the original package by the last commission that then went out to bid?
No, we added when we added the alternates, the parking lot was not ever considered in the original base bid. Mm-hmm. We felt that we needed to address that. We felt one with the handicap spaces that needed to be addressed, the condition of the parking lot, and if there's any potential damage from staging area for construction. But that, as part of the facility, we wanted that included. And that does give us the opportunity to restripe that for traffic flow as well as add the additional parking, handicap parking spaces as required. Mm-hmm. So it was all a combination of those to address those issues.
But it was added.
Yeah, the other thing we can look at with that parking lot is, a parking lot is something we can deal with independently, so we felt it would be best to integrate it with this, but it also gave us the opportunity to isolate the costs, just so we could compare back with unit costs that we might expect to see. So if we felt that it was, somewhat out of line, we could maybe separate it off and do it independently.
I understand. I think in that case, it's a very viable alternative. I appreciate seeing that here today. I also feel that the 50-meter pool is a very viable alternative, but we chose not to bring forward the engineering that would drive the cost so that we could make an informed decision today, and that didn't come from the last commission. I understand it was discussed. The other question that I had directly, in your fiscal note, it talked about with the range of the bids that we now have, it'll allow us to establish a maintenance and replacement fund. If I read into that, that money, was that budgeted elsewhere, or would that just been a part of the routine city budget, and this gives us a chance to...
Yeah, what this allows us to do is to establish that fund up front. Mm-hmm. With the existing sales tax proceeds that will be coming in, establish that early, so that in the future, 5 years, 10 years down the road, when we need a repair, we don't have to come back and ask out of buildings, facilities, or one of those other funds, capital funds. This would allow us to have that established up front. Obviously, hoping not to need it for several years, but it would allow us to proceed with the revenue as it's coming in early in the sales tax collection.
That's a smart idea. What about how much is that fund?
We were looking at approximately $350,000.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Can we continue discussion about this for a little bit more?
Needed to have his answer now, or did you want to defer that?
I think any legal advice I would be giving, Commissioner, I would want to do in executive session.
Oh, so you're wanting to move into executive session?
Can we finish this?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't make a motion.
I have a quick question, Mr. Snyder. If you remember, on the survey that was up for public input, there were like 12 to 15 different features.
12.
Do you remember where the lap pool came in the grand
Competition
scheme of
pool
things?
came in ninth.
Okay, thanks.
Steve, can you tell me again, it seems to me that the number that we had previously in terms of additional cost to add a 50-meter pool was somewhere in the $500,000 range.
Yeah, and I want to clarify what the difference is in the two figures. That initially we had a $700,000 figure, and if you look at the lap pool, what we would do is, this is the diving well off to the side. If this pool was extended from 25 meters to 50 meters, you would incorporate the diving well in the end of it, probably on this end, the deeper end. And by doing that, this was an estimate of about $200,000 for this portion of the project. You basically don't need that. You can subtract that, because now it's incorporated in the pool. So you subtract that, and now you're down to right at a little over $500,000. And then you have the engineering and design and construction administration over and above that. Initially, when we did not, we were going to have the standalone, or not standalone, but L-shaped on this side, it was $700,000 range. But by changing that design allows us to reduce that sum.
Well, I guess I take exception to Commissioner Jennings' comments about the past commission not wanting to make an informed decision on this.
Okay, excuse me, I was going to answer. On November 24th, this was brought up to the commission to ask them if we wanted to go ahead with the design of a 50-meter at that time, about $37,000, and to add the 50-meter as an alternate to the project, just as we are doing with the spray ground and the parking lot today. And that decision was not to proceed at that time.
I guess just a little background on to anyone here who might be interested in why I, for instance, was not in support of this. Number one, I felt like it would actually end up costing us votes with the sales tax issue eventually. By and large, the majority of the constituents that I heard from were not in support of a 50-meter pool. That being said, I've made it known before that I hope my kids swim competitively. I support the sport, but I also have to keep in mind what the taxpayers are paying for. And if you ever look around in the summer, in the heat of the summer, when an aquatic center like this is being used, it seems to me that the one area that is always just void of humans is a 50-meter pool. And I understand there is the potential, and at the time we were presented with the potential of possibly having one competitive meet brought to Salina on an annual basis. And for the relatively small amount of competitive swimmers in our community, for the relatively small economic benefit that pool would bring to us, weighing that with the pretty large additional costs it was going to cost us, not only for initial construction, but I assume for upkeep as well and maintenance, it just didn't make sense to me at that point. So I don't feel like we didn't make an effort. I mean, I feel like we made an effort to make a pretty educated decision at that point. And I feel like it was an effort that the majority of the taxpayers supported as this was voted in. I mean, the sales tax issue was voted in favor of.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, I'm definitely want to add a little bit more. I think I've said a number of times you can get data from wherever you want to justify your point. The online data suggests that for aqua centers like this, that over 90% of the people report using the pool, and it's at a great majority of the time. Maybe because a lot of the facilities only have 2 slides, so they look at the long lines and decide they're going to stay in the pool. We frequented Emporia's quite a bit, which is a 50-meter pool as the centerpiece, and this much smaller lazy river. So this is I mean, you can't really compare the two because that was definitely done on a much smaller scale than what we'll have here. Lazy River just has empty tubes that float around it. A few people go up and down the slide on that, and everybody is in the pool. So I would agree, but it probably depends upon the features, and we've got a lot of features. As you know, as to serving a few, you know, not everybody will go to the Bicentennial Center. Not everybody is in support of public art. You know, the parks, the sprinkler parks that we have, and different things that we choose to do as a community, whether we're supporting an orchestra, whether we're, you know, doing those kind of community things. We do choose on a lot of things to support a few. I guess one of the things on this is it is a little bit concerning with the article in the Salina Journal that basically showed the type of numbers that we're planning on for our facility compared to McPherson, and we have more features and we have more space, but we'll have a pool that's half the size of McPherson's. That, you know, to me, I don't want to get down the road 5 years from now or 3 years from now and say, man, we should have built a much bigger pool, especially if there's the funding available now and we have the capability to do it now. And you know, it is not fair to make the comment that I made about the last commission as far as what I meant was, it's a shame that we didn't gather the numbers, because now we're dealing with prices that are completely, hold it in a completely different light, that might have changed things. And with the Salina Aquatics Club, we got numbers from the Salina Chamber, and I'd like to thank them for helping me in a quick fashion. And based on numbers that are very conservative compared to Missouri Valley Swims, which is our sanctioning body, they're looking at an economic spend of about $75,000, $80,000 on those meets. And when you go to Emporia to a meet, it's held early. They don't have to shut the place down all day long, and things along those lines. So I do think it is. I do think it warrants us talking about it and making sure, because if it was the what do we call it? The spray grounds, that's a pretty easy one to do or set aside. The pool, you do it, and if we wish that we'd have done it another way down the road, then I just don't want to be looked back at and say we didn't really take a lot of time. And granted, it would be a completely different conversation had all these bids turned out 10% higher than the engineer's estimate versus lower the way that they are now.
I want to talk a little bit about private funding, and I don't know, it's my understanding the soccer field complex cost about $2 million total to build. Over 50% of that was paid for by private funds. The turf project at Salina Stadium was $450,000, all paid by private funds. Dean Evans' cost was about $600,000, over half was paid for by private funds. The first tee project was $600,000, and again, over half paid for by private funds. Mr. Schneider or Mr. Gage, do you know whether any private individuals, clubs, organizations have raised any money or have received pledges for money to go towards the 50-meter pool?
Well, when we purposely opened up a time frame for that was kind of intended to allow the commissioners some time to hear if there was an effort, although it was pretty short, pretty aggressive, in order to help make that decision on the design. There were discussions with individuals, but there was not a firm commitment to move forward at that time. And again, I think there are a lot of factors, and the timing might have been a factor. I can't speak as to what they were, but we did not have a group or individual come in and say, yes, 100% I'll give this amount.
Did they
But I think
commit
there-
to
I
the
think there was
effort?
an effort out there. I will say, I think there was a good effort out there. A lot of discussions being held in the community, and that's really about all I know on that
So
topic.
you think there was an effort made, but they couldn't get any commitment for fundraising?
Well, yeah, I mean, we didn't have a full commitment provided to us. Why, I can't speak to that. I don't know that for sure.
And was that before the final design was complete?
I think the time frame was, that request was given in August, when about these readings, and I mentioned, and then the deadline was the vote, so that if it passed, the sales tax passed, we could then go to a next step with the design firm and then instruct them to include that 50-meter facility in his final design, giving him the time to do it. And that, at that point, we didn't hear any commitment or promise to come forward with any funds.
Okay.
On these other projects that you're talking about, were the private funds raised up front and then they came to the city and said, hey, let's get something moving on this? Or did the city say, let's do this project and, we can do it a little bit bigger if we get more money? What was the flow of those?
I'll tell you that in the case of the soccer complex, the soccer club and individuals came to us and said that they would commit to, at that time it was anticipated about a 1.5 million, and they committed to 50% of that. And because of the way it designed and in final construction, it was closer to 2 million, and they did up their portion of that to 50%. Dean Evans Stadium was the same way. We had a group of basically baseball supporters that came and said, we would like a first-class stadium. We will raise 50% of the money for that. First tee at the golf course, they actually, that little par 3 course was on the plans for over 10 years. And when that group came to us and said, we will provide $400,000 of the $600,000, that project then went forward immediately. Okay. So almost all of the groups came with the money, the obligation first.
In a pledge form. They didn't say, here's $400,000,
they
you can
pledged.
start.
They pledged to do
correct.
that. Yes.
And Commissioners, I want to be very clear, too, and give credit where credit's due. Again, with this project, it was a very, very short time frame, and up until the time that it really made its way onto the radar of the Commissioners, it was kind of considered a semi-dead concept for many, many years because of a past attempt to go after it and so forth. So when it all did come to fruition, it was really a very tight time frame. And arguably, I don't even know if it was reasonable to expect that type of fundraising effort to occur in that kind of time. But I think for those who are really working to try to get that going and talk to people, they made just a big effort. It was a tough thing to do.
Yeah. Thanks. That's the point that I wanted to make too, because they were more at bay, just like the commission was, to make decisions very quick. And I think a few of them said we're close, but I can't put my guarantee on the line, whereas the others were, we can take a lot of time, and then when we're ready, we can start pushing it.
The only exception I would make to that is, I think if it was one of those other projects, my phone would have been ringing off the hook. And I can tell you that I received very few calls regarding that 50-meter pool in support of. And that, to me, is also another indicator as a city commissioner of, if there's a large outpouring of public support for a project, I usually hear about it, and that's just something I heard literally from a handful of people. And I know you'd made the comparison that not everybody uses the Bicentennial Center, but we're talking about an aquatic club that I'm assuming has somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 40 kids, if that. I don't know. More than that. 50 to 60? Okay. A very small group of kids, and I don't want to disenfranchise a sport or a group of kids, but I never felt like I saw a whole lot of support out there for this.
The comment that was said to me, I too did not receive that many phone calls. On everything else that has come across this desk, my phone rings off the wall and people can come into my office and I'm just right there smack in front of the door. I had 2 phone calls about this swimming thing from day one. Someone said to me yesterday, if you have $100 to spend on a dress and you go shopping for a dress and you find the one that you like and it's only $80, aren't you going to upgrade and get that better dress because you've allotted that in your budget? I said, no. When I find it on sale, it's on sale. I am not going to call a bank and ask to see how much, or I'll call the bank to see how much it's going to cost to finance a $15,000 car. And they tell me how much it's going to cost to finance a $15,000 car. When I find that dream car and it's only $12,000, heck no, I'm not going to bump up my ante. I'm going to buy that car at $12,000 because that is my budget. The fact that it was lower than what I had thought is icing on the cake. And during these economic times, I am grateful that they came in under that budgeted quote because that just says a lot. And there are a lot of people sitting at home today that are unemployed that are thinking, I'm not even going to be able to afford to go to this pool next year if I don't get a job. So I am thankful that we came under that radar screen, and I still would not support a 50-meter pool.
Along with that, on the heels of a aesthetically semi-unpopular North Ohio overpass, I have said that as a city commission and as a city organization, I really feel like we need to have a project that not only is done on time, but done extremely well, good craftsmanship, great construction, and if it comes in under budget, that is beautiful. And we have the opportunity, I believe, to cross one of those things off the list and have faith in our partners that the other 2 will get taken care of. And I just really feel like we would have a pretty negative backlash from the community to take that extra savings and say, look what else we can get now with it. I mean, the argument is, did we approve the project or did we approve the money? And that can be argued a little bit, but I guess I'm looking at it from the project standpoint.
I'd like to ask the guy from Aquatic Design a question. It seems, if I'm hearing right, the standard design for pools is a 50-meter pool. Yes? Build a lot of those?
It depends on what the use is and what your application. If we're doing competition pools, then they're almost always 50-meter pools.
Okay. So you build several of those a year?
Yeah, we design all different types, yes.
Okay. So pretty much you have a pretty good idea what this pool is going to cost?
Yes.
Okay. So you could give us probably an estimate today what it's going to cost without looking at equipment delivery, which could or could not be a snag. So I've done enough construction projects, and sometimes delivery is an issue.
Yeah, cost-wise, I think the estimates we had before would equate to about a $600,000+ addition to do in lieu of doing the diving area and not widening the pool, but keeping it still 45 feet wide, which is not conventional, and 50 meters long. Typically on a 50-meter pool, we're at least 75 feet wide because it's competition. They can do 25-yard one direction and 50-meter the other. But if you kept the width the same at 45 and added then the additional length to get that and taken away the diving, you're probably in that range. We could really get down to the numbers if we bring if the contractor is brought in, then we can really get to what it's going to cost from their standpoint. My biggest concern is just time, really. The time element, the 2010 open season. But
okay, so about $600,000.
I would say, if you put me on the spot, I'd say I'd put a plus behind that.
Okay. Thanks.
Now I'd like to move to recess into executive session for 5 minutes to discuss legal matters subject to attorney-client privilege for the reason public discussion of these matters would waive that privilege and adversely affect the city's interest in the matters, and reconvene in this room at 6:10.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we recess into executive session for 5 minutes and reconvene in this room at 6:10. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. We're in executive session. It's been moved and seconded that we come back into our city commission's session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. We'll continue with our city commission meeting. Will the commissioners finish with questions of staff? For now, anyway. This time, I'll open it up to public comment.
It's right time, huh? Okay. My name's Harry Kazicki. I'm the president of the Salina Aquatics Club. I live at 1357 Camp Road, Solomon, Kansas, still. I came here mainly in support of trying to get the commission to reconsider the 50-meter pool idea. I'm trying to be an advocate for the swimmers and the kids that swim. As I've mentioned in letters to the city commission before when they were discussing this, the whole online questionnaire thing is a flawed philosophy, a flawed method of determining that. It's like, it's asking the public for entertainment dollars, what do you want? Well, people don't swim laps for entertainment. They swim laps to become better swimmers and to get in shape. It's not something like a lazy river or a slide. So I think the whole methodology of that online quiz to include a lap pool was flawed for most people. As far as the comments of the larger area of water not being full of people during the summer, I think there's I've been to McPherson Pool several times in the summer, and usually there are a significant number of people over there. But as far as the overall population, you got to remember that some people don't swim. They're at a pool, but they don't swim. So those people are not going to be in an area where they can't stand. So I don't think that you could say that there aren't people out there as packed as the other areas, and that's a fair analogy. And even the people that do swim, when you can't stand, you're not going to stay there for an exceptional long period of time. The City of Manhattan just had they were in design of a pool, and their Parks and Rec department also suggested that they don't build a 50-meter pool, but the City Commission was much more supportive of swimmers, and they are going to put a 50-meter pool in their
If I
facility.
could interrupt real quick, just a question. Now, that is a fairly large aquatic club in Manhattan?
About the same size as ours.
It's about the same size?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's about the same. I don't know, I had something else slip my mind. Anyway, I really would like to see, I understand your point of, we don't want to spend money if we don't have to. That's a valid point. I would like to comment also about the constituency, the people that use a 50-meter pool for competition, that it's not going to be a large group, but they are counting on your support from the City Commission. That's, I believe, part of what a City Commission can do is look out for the population and for the people, and even the underrepresented groups in elections can get some representation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioners, Mayor. I'm Debbie Smith, coach of the Salina Aquatics Club, 101 West South, Bavaria, Kansas, 67401. Commissioners, part of the reason you haven't heard from Harry and I on the phone extensively is because as county residents, instead of city residents, we are a little bit limited there. That's part of it. I would like to let you know that right now, this very minute, there are 18 kids at the South High Pool waiting for their coach. They're being coached by our assistant coach. We had 3 kids at the YMCA at our practice this afternoon. It's the last week of school, and there is still that much support for swimming right here in Salina, Kansas. Currently, Saturday, part of Mr. Gage was speaking about the whole timing issue of us speaking out and contacting commissioners. All of our kids our families are very highly involved families. They have to be, because swimming is a year-round sport. And we do a lot of what we do, we volunteer so that our fees are very low. Most of you are probably not aware that part of our usage agreement at South High is that we put on the entire high school swimming meet. Right now, USD 305, we put on all of their meets. We do everything. It takes 30 to 34 volunteers per meet. We do this 4 to 5 times during the high school boys season. We do this during the high school girls season. That's in addition to hosting our own meets, which we host 2 of. We don't even have the South High Pool for the next 2 summers to practice because it's going to be shut down for maintenance. Okay, our club roster varies how many kids we have by season because our whole philosophy is we want these kids swimming for life because swimming is a lifetime fitness opportunity. And that's one thing that I think you as commissioners need to think about, because what you're doing is not supporting kids who are doing a sport that they're looking at for life. Because a lot of times swimmers, they may give it up for a while, they may not compete the rest of their lives, but a lot of swimmers swim and that is their fitness because they can do it for life, unlike most other sports. The senior games are coming up. You'd be surprised at the ages of those athletes. Okay? And they can keep doing it without injury. Anytime other sports kids are injured, they come to us to swim for rehab. So there's a lot more to swimming than just splashing around in a pool. But we're not as vocal or as widely supported as other groups in the city. That may be why you haven't heard. The other thing is, I think just a time factor is why you haven't heard from us recently. I know that was part of it. Okay, something that as you're doing this, you need to consider. Like I said, we host the league championships. Because of the great forward thinking and the support of the year-round clubs, in Salina, Kansas, we now have phenomenal, just fantastic year-round, or not year-round, but we have fantastic facilities for the development of athletes. Golf, we have state caliber athletes. Golf, tennis, baseball, all of those. We just recently hosted on Saturday the girls' AVCTL League Championships. Every single one of those kids that were on the medal stand were year-round swimmers.
Ms. Smith, can I interrupt you for a second? You mentioned that you host 2 meets. Where do you hold those meets, and what clubs come in to participate in those meets?
I apologize because I have been up here before with the previous commission, and with swimming, I forget that it's competitive swimming is really a whole nother world. We have 2 seasons. We have short course, which is 25 yards. We compete 25 yards. Then we have long course, which is 50 meters always for competition. Okay. We host those 2 meets at the South High Pool.
And those are the short course
Those are
meets.
short course. We aren't able to host a long course meet because we have no 50-meter pool. In addition to that, starting June 1, we will be busing our kids to the McPherson Aquatic Center at 5:30 in the morning just to have practice time for the summer. We'll be there for 2 hours. We'll leave there. We're going to be there from 6 to 8 in the morning. We'll bus back, and then our dedicated swimmers will then go to the YMCA from 4 to 6 in the afternoon. We have 4 to 6 for 3 lanes only at the YMCA. That's it. That's all our practice facilities. So that's what we'll be doing this summer.
You have the parents of any kids here tonight?
No, we do not. Like I said, the timing of all of this always seems to be very unfortunate for our club because we have kids and it's the end of school. We requested that people come, but I know everybody's really swamped right now. So
And on the fundraising side, do you have any pledges, or have you raised any money?
when we had a committee that looked at the fundraising, people were not willing to commit when there was no guarantee that this project was going to have a 50-meter pool. That was the bottom line. Something else that I've brought up before is that other clubs, back to this, I know I kind of am being very detailed, but back to this league championship, those girls that were on the medal stands, 4 of them are year-round swimmers that compete in 50, or that don't compete, but train in 50-meter pools year-round. Those 4 swimmers are swimming in college at Division I schools. We don't have the facilities. Our kids are being deprived of that option. We currently have a swimmer who's a club member who's swimming at Princeton. Our kids from the club that try to go on to swim in college, they do really well because they've never trained 50 meters before. But the aspiration, by saying you will not support competitive swimmers with a 50-meter pool, you are telling our kids that swimming is not important to the community of Salina, and it shoots dreams down pretty fast. Not only that, but something I don't think that you've thought about is, where are those 40 to 50 lifeguards going to come from? Currently, in the staff roster at the YMCA, there's 20 kids on that roster. 17 of those kids have been competitive swimmers with the Salina Aquatics Club, either currently or at one point in time. And if you don't support competitive swimming at this level, the high school teams will die, because it's just like the other sports. You have to have kids in today's society, as competitive as everything is. You have to have kids that are focused and trained early on. It's very difficult to come in as a freshman in high school and swim at a highly competitive level. This Friday and Saturday is the high school state championships. The championships, and it's 6A, it's all classes. The qualifications for those championships are faster than the pool records at South High. Several of you graduated from South. You know what a big deal those pool records are. Imagine not even feeling like you can go qualify for state because you don't have the opportunity to train to do that. Any other questions about competitive swimming?
Any questions of Ms. Smith?
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Jim O'Shea. I live at 2314 Hillside Drive. You know, I don't know what you guys plan to do with the old swimming pool, but, you know, in the event that they don't do that, couldn't these people use the old swimming pool if they'd help pay the cost of the water and stuff? I don't know how big the old swimming pool is.
That was brought up at one of the forums, and Mr. Snyder could probably speak to that because of the condition
Yeah, I
of
know it's not the
ground.
greatest, but just for them kids to go over there and practice in, you know, and get their stuff done, and maybe talk to the city about having the meets. Well, no, that's not going to, if you guys don't approve that, but it'll be a compromise, I don't know.
No, that pool, I think that pool is,
It's pretty bad
it's on
shape.
its last leg.
The problem with the Kenwood pool, it is a 50-meter pool, but because of the deep end settling, when the water level is full in the deep end, it's down on the shallow end, probably 8 inches or more. Therefore, you cannot make turns with that condition of the pool.
That was brought up. That was a great idea, and we already thought of it. We already thought of it. Thank you. Any other public comment? If not, I'll bring it back to the commission for action.
Mayor, I move that the City Commission award a contract to construct a family aquatic facility, project number 08-2735, to Straub Construction Company, Shawnee, Kansas, in the amount of $10,396,200.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we, as a city commission, award a contract to construct family aquatic facility, project number 08-2735, to Straub Construction Company, Shawnee, Kansas, in the amount of $10,396,200. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Nay.
Motion passes 4-1 with Commissioner Jennings nay. At this time, any other business? If not, I'll ask for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. We're adjourned. Thank you.